David Nethery. I'm president of AIR4arts. Now, many of you may be familiar with Arts Incubator of Richardson. We took AIR and updated it and created AIR4arts. AIR4arts inspires and nurtures the development of emerging artists and innovators through educational programs and mentoring resources. The organization also helps established creatives to enhance their professional and entrepreneurial skills. And finally, AIR4arts offers a digital platform through which to share the fruits of creatives' efforts with the community. Think of AIR4arts as kind of a greenhouse for creative endeavor. It takes a spark of imagination, nurtures it, encourages it, and helps it to grow to the point that it blossoms. Now, over the last 10 years, AIR featured a series of interviews called AIRTime with creative individuals of all genres. And AIR4arts is delighted to continue and expand this interview series, utilizing a digital format to reach more viewers. We will continue to have guests, a variety of people who are innovators in wide spectrum of creative undertakings. We'll still follow the format of a 45-minute interview used in the past, and featuring David Fisher, who is the Assistant Director of Arts and Culture for the City of Dallas. And now I would like to turn this over to Susan Morrow, who is our outstanding Executive Director. And I'm going to ask her to introduce the program for the evening. Susan?
Thank you, David. It is my amazing pleasure to introduce Toni Portmann, who is co-founder, CEO of Walkabout Workplace. I've known Toni for a number of years, and she has had more than 35 years of experience. I know, but it's amazing.
Not that old.
No, she's not. She is amazingly young, but in so many companies of technology-centric focus. And she has, in terms of the number of skill sets from leadership, management, budget, you name it, she's done it. Magazines call her a force to be reckoned with. I totally agree, because she's made an amazing impact everywhere she has worked, and including, along with, obviously, her corporate activities and her entrepreneurial ventures. She has also been involved with in terms of not only corporate boards, nonprofit, and public boards, where she has served as chairman of the board and other positions. It is, Toni to me is a corporate, she's a community leader. She is, in so many ways, an amazing individual I am proud to call friend.
Fantastic.
Great pleasure, Toni Portmann.
Thank you. I got to write all that down. You guys are both wonderful. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled, David, to be here with you.
Yes, thank you, Toni, and thank you, David and Susan, and to everyone who's watching. Welcome back to AIRTime. Whether you're watching this live or the recorded version, we are glad that you're here. And again, please help me welcome our guests for this evening, entrepreneur and many other things, Toni Portmann. So we're currently broadcasting this interview and using a new platform for us, not a new platform, called Walkabout, which you are the founder and CEO of. Now we'll talk about Walkabout in a bit, but I wanted to sort of start with, how did you get here? When you were young, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Employed. So that's a great question. I was a country girl that grew up in Montana, and I only person in my family that went through college, put myself through college by milking cows and breaking horses and waiting tables. On a Friday, I graduated from business school in Boise, Idaho, which was the closest to Montana that I could get. And on Monday, I went to work for IBM. And I have said in interviews before, all I ever really needed to know, I learned at IBM. I was blessed for 17 years to do amazing things with amazing people. And what I learned is it was an MBA on steroids with the best company leadership in the world, honestly. And I also learned to surround myself with really brilliant people. So then I went on to run 6 different companies, some more successful than others, because that's what we do is we learn. And I'm super excited to have had the opportunity to find this platform called Walkabout. We actually got here because one of the companies that I ran, a competitor that we never lost to, I might add, and then became a product user of another company that I ran, called me up on the phone and said, "You've got to look at this concept, this platform. It's pretty amazing." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, we need money and maybe you should come run it." And I said, "Oh my God, I don't want to do another startup." But once I looked at the platform, met the founders, and understood the impact that it could have on human output, creativity, I fell in love. I drank the Kool-Aid. So here we are.
So I love that idea of a job being an MBA, grooming you over those years. What were the early lessons that you learned? What were the rules that you learned to always live by, that you learned in those early formative years that have stayed with you?
Oh, David, how much time do we have? But so I think, a couple of things, and some people that are probably listening would say, "Oh, that's Tonyisms or whatever." So number one, you just surround yourself with beautiful, wonderful, strong, talented people, and then you play to strengths. We all have strengths. If we have the combined elements of a team, it's got to be a team that plays together, and then that team plays and leverages the strengths of one another. The other is IBM taught me, and this is a kind of a fun aside. I loved customers. I loved sales. I loved being out. And at one point, IBM was going through the U.S. Quality Award, the Baldrige, and they said, "We're going to promote you, and you're going to be the director of quality." And I'm like, no. I don't do numbers and spreadsheets, and I like people. And it's the worst job I ever had, and it's the best job I ever had. Because what I learned from that is what gets measured gets managed. Mm-hmm. That you put process at the top of everything you do, because definable, repeatable, measurable processes produce output, not people. You put an awesome person in a mediocre process, the process wins. You put a mediocre person in an awesome process, the process wins. And then the other thing is build a culture and surround yourself with people that have an aligned vision, a shared set of values, and build a culture of trust and respect where people actually thrive and lay awake at night. I always say, lay awake at night, dreaming of the contribution each can make to the collective vision.
Well, there is your book right there.
Oh no! And then it's all the.
I wanted to keep listening, but I'm going to have to listen to the rebroadcast just to get some notes from that. No, I think that's amazing. I love what you say about the process always winning, because I think as strong personalities, like you, we deal with people and ideas and possibilities. But if you're stuck in a process that is always going to get you down, you're right. The process is going to drag you down. Yep. So what did those years teach you about being an owner of a company, an entrepreneur, a person who's taking a new idea and running with it?
Well, I think that's exactly the framework. So from the first one that I ran all the way through, it's what's the vision of what can be possible. I love to call myself a possibilitarian. And so I love that. What is the possible? Take something that is and then see what could be possible as a result of it. I also think that for me, finding a why. I remember years ago in Dallas, I went and heard Simon Sinek, who wrote The Power of Why. I kind of had a crush on him, to be honest with you. I even stalked him and had a conversation with him. And the first company, or actually the second company I went to run, I was sitting on an airplane going to get $11 million from a private equity group to grow a company. And I sat on the plane and said, I've got to start with why. What's my why? And I laid awake at night in a hotel room. And I knew I had a job to do. So I went into the boardroom. We got $11 million committed by the investors. I got back on the airplane. I flew home and I told the team that we had a vision and we had a package and they had a company, but it can't include me because I couldn't find a why in that company. And I went and joined a man, and we did an amazing thing with education and training in a learning management neuroscience program that today was born out of the Center for Brain Health, which is a huge part of, I think, Dallas's fabric of the future, built on the way the brain plasticity works. And that was a why. And so I probably didn't make as much money, didn't get as much fame, but what it did is it gave me a real foundation of, you better know your why, and the team better know every day what that why is, so that they show up every day, not just executing the process, but executing it for the output of achievement of that future vision.
Mm-hmm. Now, was this trip where you went and did the presentation? I was talking to a colleague of mine who uses your system, and she said, make sure you ask her about the incident with the yellow suit in the Denver airport.
Oh my gosh, I know that's Lynn O'Neill. It definitely is. Well, you just do what you have to do when you have to do it. So it's a little silly story, but you know, in business, I was ready to go to a board meeting, and I was all dressed in my best goldenrod, literally goldenrod suit. I looked good. And on the airplane, as the flight attendant went by, there went my coffee all over my suit. And this was a pretty big, important meeting. So I went in the bathroom with my yellow suit, and I thought, you know, there's only one way that this is going to kind of match. So I ran the entire suit underneath the water. I wrung it out. I put it back on. It was all one color. It was very wet, but I made it through the board meeting and no one knew what happened.
So it's what is there? There's a new book called Grit, where perseverance is one of the keys to just pushing through and getting what's done needs to get done.
Yep, I've had people say, you've got resiliency, and sometimes I wish I just had a little bit less of it, to be honest. But that's what does come from growing up in Montana, milking cows and breaking horses. I'll tell you, you learn and you value, and you really are grateful for the people that make you who you are and the situations that make you resilient, I guess. We learn more from our mistakes than sometimes we learn from our successes.
That's so, so what do you, sorry, question just went in and out of my mind. I'll move on. So you sort of said how you got involved with Walkabout, that you were approached by some people and loved the idea behind it. What was it that first attracted you to the way this works?
Yeah, I love that. So Chad Carlson was the investor and competitor and is still one of our key investors and a great guy. He introduced me to Anton Forth and Brad Richardson, who were the co-founders, and they kind of said, here's our vision of this thing. And I sat on my heels, David, because I will tell you, this is in early 2019, pre-COVID, didn't see that one coming. Parenthetically, kind of glad it did, but I looked at it. And so the first company that I ran, we grew from nothing to 15,000 employees in 16 countries in 31 offices. And when I saw Walkabout, I said, oh my gosh, I would have used this every day. Even though we had 31 offices in 16 countries, I was never where I was supposed to be. I was on an airplane or in an Admirals Club, or I was in, France when I should have been in India. And I saw this and I thought, imagine being able to be with your team with the click of a button in person, because what matters is connecting with people and community. Process delivers outcomes, but if you don't have the connection with the people and the community, you can't really kind of optimize on productivity. So that was the number one thing. Then in research, the data said 72.3% of people pre-COVID are going to work either partially or fully remote from their team by 2025. And guess what? That happened to us in 2020. Thank you, COVID. The problem with, or the benefit of what I saw was we've got tons of tools. We've got Zoom and Teams and we've got tons of tools, but we don't have a place to go and we don't have a place to use them. And we don't have a place that fosters what you and I are doing right now. We're not physically together, but we're the next best thing. And you saw David and Susan come in and they'll come back in and we're going to do a little demo. And it puts people back in a place no matter where they are in the world. And I remember flying to LA on an airplane and I'm working on my PC when I was doing diligence and the team was in the office and I got off the airplane and I took my headset on. I wasn't talking, but I had been in the office with the team creating for 3.5 hours. And I said, oh my goodness, this is the next bastion. And then what's happened since is Zoom fatigue is real. We are relegated to a yellow, red, green dot on a chat or on a calendar invite. And we've got to get back to being able to create. And I love why AIR, because we're back to creation. In business, we've got to use our whole brain, not just our left brain, which is process oriented, but our right brain, which is engagement and not collaboration, co-creation. So that's why I fell in love with it. That's a very long answer, but that's the truth.
It's not marvelous, and it goes back to that idea of back with the employee and the process, and that whole notion that people leave bosses, not jobs. So it's about that engagement, and an engaged employee is going to be a better employee regardless of how talented or educated they are.
Well, and David, I love that. Gartner just came out with a report, and Gartner is like brainiacs, and it said the number one thing that CIOs need to worry about in 2021 is isolation. Now, I've got to tell you, I haven't seen Gartner say that a CIO should worry about a soft skill, but here's what's happening. People are feeling isolated. They're depressed. They're not connected, particularly if they're new in a company. There's new words called street to seat, door to floor. We're relegating people to being like little, sort of avatars, and right? Maybe we can replace them with artificial intelligence and virtual reality. But at the end of the day, we need people connecting with people. And here's the end result: attrition. very expensive to the bottom line. In my old company, 1% attrition was $3 million to the bottom line of the company. So skip creativity, that's called business math. If I'm isolated and not connected, I'm not contributing, I'm not creating. I can't walk down the hall and have that water cooler conversation. And I'm also not connected to the culture of the company or the school. So creating this environment where the whole brain neuroscientifically is engaged with the people, with the community in the creation, well, that's what matters.
Well, I remember there was another study that came out recently that was talking about not our first ring of people that we're connected with, that we work with, but it was the sort of outer rings. It's the barista or the man at the parking garage or the security guard, those sort of people who are still part of our universe that we would see every day and would know our name and say hello and give us our coffee or ring up our groceries or whatever, that people are really missing those connections. They're water cooler. I mean, I may work in accounting, but when I go to the lunchroom, I see the people from marketing and admin and whatever.
You know, one of my favorite stories is Bill Gates, a long time ago, he created a new headquarters, and it was like the Taj Mahal. It was like super cool. But on purpose, he put the bathrooms around the perimeter so that people had to leave their offices and go completely across a whole like landscape of a lot of square feet, so that they had to have those spontaneous opportunities for involvement and creation and just getting to know people. We need that. We need it. And so what we've created is this cool place that's kind of like the place you go, but only better, because you can be anywhere in the world with your colleagues and your barista, and so it's fun.
Well, and we'll see when we take the tour. You can see, so and so's in our office. Oh, I haven't even thought about seeing so and so, and I need to ask them about something. So, or you just say, hey, so and so, how are you doing? And say, well, I need to get a new veterinarian, and you say, well, I have a great veterinarian. And
every day.
Those human connections where we, share information and share recipes and tips and all that.
Well, and that every day. So one of my favorites is Patty Woodhouse, who has worked for me in the last company that we ran. We were in Dallas, Texas, in Lincoln Center on the 13th floor. She was right next door to me. I see her more in Walkabout than I saw when she physically officed next door, because we had locations, in London and in Scottsdale, Arizona, and in Bulgaria where we did development. And so that's why the world's flat. We've got to connect the world, but we've got to do it keeping the human in the company.
Well, and I love what you say about the creation of a space, a place. I mean, because I think I did 2 or 3 Zoom meetings today. But once the Zoom meeting starts, when it ends and it's gone, it's like it never existed, unless we have a recording of it. But here you know where to go. There's a place.
And so you're so on the neuroscience of context and space. So I actually act and react differently in the podcast room than I do in the break room. When I go into the boardroom, I sit up a little straighter. When I go in the training room, I kind of put my thinking cap on. And to change that schema and context throughout the day, like we do in real brick and mortar, I think was one of the missing links in the co-working environments, like a WeWork. I called WeWork the most expensive cup of coffee in American business. But they created a major enterprise because why? People wanted to be with people. So we've done all of what that was created for pennies on the dollar, and I think have done it in a much smarter way by adding that creativity. And what I love is you're seeing kind of logos in the background. Culture gets created physically, operationally, and with affinity. So Karen Sobel-Lejeski wrote a book, very important book, The Art of Leading Distributed Teams. And she coined a metric, back to my IBM days of measurement, of virtual distance, it's called. And she says there's 3 attributes to virtual distance. And by the way, you and I could work down the hall from one another and have high virtual distance. The first is, very importantly, physical. So physical is, right, brick and mortar, time zones, it's accoutrements, it's tools, that kind of thing. Operationally is, if we're distributed, how are we going to run this company or this school to make sure that we create the opportunity for connection, for output, so I call it daily, weekly, monthly. How are you going to change the way you run your company daily, weekly, monthly, because you're not getting together physically? And then the third, which, by the way, through correlation analysis, Karen has determined is the number one most important correlated metric to virtual distance, and that's affinity. That's 2 things: connection to team and connection to brand. So I mentioned IBM. We used to say in IBM, our blood ran blue. That was the color of IBM. We had a culture that was so proud, think and right. I always was proud to walk into a company and say, I work for IBM, right? Companies have to create culture around brand, and they have to create community around team. And the correlation to affinity is, do I feel connected to this team, and do I feel connected to this brand? And if I feel connected to those 2 things, I will be happier, I will be more productive, I will be a better contributor to my team, and that's why Walkabout.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds like a perfect segue to actually, now that we've been speaking for several minutes about this amazing thing, why don't you we'll take a brief break, and you will give us a tour.
Well, okay, you're not going anywhere. And, I'm so excited about that. I always say you have to see it to believe it. And I'm just going to show you just such a small microcosm, but I'm going to go over and show you exactly where we are and sort of what we're doing. So the journey begins on what we call a landing page. And if we look at AIR4arts, this is where people come to work. This is where Susan comes to work. This is where David comes to work. This is where the team comes to work. But that place we come to work can be anything we'd like. I love the guys up on the tollway in Dallas, Texas at the law firm FBFK, because Kyle Ferguson said, I want lawyers in LA and in Houston and in Dallas to have a place to come to work so that we are truly collaborating as a team. I love that. And then out at UTD, right in our backyard, UTD created out of the School of Business, the Jindal School of Business, a place for students to come to learn. So I love, love, love the ability to be able to come to a place. And we're doing this all over the world, including Tokyo, Japan, and all over Europe. So when I come to work and I log in, I'm now in the AIR4arts lobby. And this lobby begins the beginning of a brand connection. So when I'm in the lobby, imagine this, I could be literally a person that would be sitting with her camera behind this desk, and I could be greeting people in both physically and on video. And then the magic really happens when I pull up what we fondly call the heads up display. So it's super cool. We're in the podcast room. I'm pretending I'm this demo gal. Susan and David are in their office, and there's Laura down the hall. But watch what I can do. So you want to talk about creativity? I can go into a gallery and imagine people coming into this gallery and being on full video and seeing a person actually do performing arts or sculpture with my video. And by the way, I'm going to come back to you and just for a minute, see if I can't turn my video off here. Click, and I'm going to see if I can't turn my video on here because my computer says you can't do a video in two places. Hopefully it'll let me do that. Might not, because we're doing a screen share. But my video would be here with all the people in the room like it was with you and I and Susan. And then I literally can walk to the storytelling room, which I love. In fact, we just did a podcast today with Nancy Chernin, where in the room, she did storytelling with a sixth grader, Matthew, about her new book, Martin and Anne. And AIR4arts is going to do this every month with a new storytelling experience. I can go into a boardroom and put my boardroom hat on, and then I change my persona completely if I go into one of my colleagues' offices and want to have a conversation. So I love the way this works. I even have an office, and this office, note, it's branded AIR4arts. It's branded with my look and feel that lets me create my persona. And so then I can walk down the hall into somebody's office and I can have that. And Laura's office is pretty swanky. Let me just say, Laura's office is nicer than my office. And if I went on full video, then Laura could be on full video with me in her office. There she is. And Laura can do Laura can do simultaneous screen share. We can have 10 people in any room, up to 50 people in any group room. And I can also automatically launch a Zoom in the room. So love that ability to do that. It creates an environment where if I go back to Walkabout, which is my place of business, I can see my colleagues in with their doors closed, but just for fun, let's see if we can't see an organization that might be at work. This is in Japan, and this is one of our key clients in Japan. There are 16 people in Japan in their offices doing work, one with their door closed. And this is really in Tokyo, Japan, the way Hitachi is doing business. So I'll come back to you and let's continue the dialogue. Questions?
No, it's like you said, it's so much nicer to be able to actually see it. So thanks for taking the time to give us a little tour of your little house.
Thank you.
Your enormous house, your worldwide house.
Our global house.
You mentioned earlier about the difference with about new employees, and when we talked earlier, you said senior employees are already more accustomed to work remotely or already have methods for working with their teams, but onboarding new employees has been difficult, especially in a remote work system. So how would a new employee take advantage of or be onboarded more easily in this sort of system? Yeah,
well, we love a couple of these models. So I'll give you the big scale model and then I'll make it real. So one is large companies are really struggling with how they recruit and then interview and then test and then onboard and train, and then mentor and coach, and make sure that somebody's sticky. The data says that you really need to hire somebody, and they don't hit full stride for 18 months. So that's a recoup of your return on your investment. So we've created floors in Walkabout where all the recruiters can have an office. And they can recruit candidates in and give the candidate an office. So I'm immediately creating a relationship. Then that candidate can go into a testing room and be tested. And then I can chat with somebody and they can come in and do a second line interview like walking down the hall. And then I go into onboarding, which is a separate room with my now cohort or colleagues, and we get onboarded with all of the culture of the company. And then I get assigned an office and I get assigned a mentee or a buddy, and we meet every day. And I can walk down the hall and say, I've do you have 5 minutes for me to ask you about this policy, this procedure, this process? That is on a large scale, the way companies need to rethink about talent acquisition and talent management. On an individual basis, I just talked to a gal the other day that said, I love this platform. I was thinking about quitting because I got hired a couple years ago. 1 year, I couldn't even find the bathroom. Like I was just learning how to get around. And then COVID hit. And I don't know anybody. I am a calendar invite. I am a Zoom call. I am a chat in a Slack box. And she said, your platform has given me the ability to know that I'm surrounded with people and peers and colleagues. And it's just a wonderful experience. So I do love that. I love that about the platform. And I love that about our ability to connect the people within the community. Same things happening at schools. Parents are having to homeschool. The student is asynchronously not learning. E-learning really didn't work out well before. It's really bad now. So we've created school environments. And I hope that Jim Keyes listens to this, and I hope that Hattie Hill listens to this, because we believe we can create the school of the future, where the student is not left behind. The student can be in a classroom with their colleagues, with their teachers, in team rooms, co-creating. And that's what our brains need. Our brains need engagement, because we've never had at our fingertips more access to knowledge, have we? We can Google ourselves into, knowing everything. But if we can't apply it, if we can't synthesize it, if we can't work with others, what are we going to do? And so that's where that new hire can actually blossom, because they're surrounded with an ecosystem and a support system and a culture system that has them feeling like they're making a contribution every day. Place matters. Place matters.
And so the place mattered just as much pre-pandemic, and then the pandemic came and tore everything apart. So it sounds like you probably, other than scaling up your capability, you probably didn't have to make many adjustments for the pandemic.
Well, make no mistake, we're a startup. And by the way, we're looking for investors. So if anybody that's listening to this wants to invest in the next generation of the way work and schooling gets done, you got to give me a call. But we have a lot of ahas as you go global. You go to Japan, you go to Europe, you go to places where the infrastructure might not be as robust as what we have in the United States. You've got to accommodate that. The demands for high quality video and audio and screen share and chat, co-creating or coexisting in one platform with what we like to frame as point solutions are back. So what that means and I'll just show you an application console that we have. In AIR4arts, we've got applications that include LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter. And with the touch of a button in an integrated communication platform, we can click and boom, we have that application up, ready, and launched. So we've got to have a platform that allows the favorite flavor of the day. And I always remember her name's Trudy Van Horn, and she's the CIO of NCH. And she's the one that said, Toni, point solutions are back. And I said, Trudy, say that again and explain that to me. And she said, every CIO, every CEO, every country in the globe has their favorite tool. Some like Skype, and some like Zoom, and some like Teams, and some like Slack, and some like chat, some like Skype, right? You have your favorite podcast tools and your favorite cameras and your favorite videos and your favorite speakers. Point solutions are back. So what we've got to enable is the ability to have those work in a place that makes the person the most productive. Not have the tool not have the person have to conform to the tool, have the tool enable the output of the person. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Love that. And by the way, that goes to learning management systems. It goes to this. We've got tool mania. We've got gadgets and widgets and add-ons, but we've got to have a place to put them and a workflow to make sure that we make the person as productive and as connected as possible to the community that they're in. And again, as we look around AIR, here's our colleagues, in the offices. There I am in the demo in Laura's office. Here you and I are. Here's David and Susan in their room.
It's amazing. Are there any new features or new horizons that are being looked at or developed?
Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start. So yes, we've got a product release plan and a roadmap 1,000,000 miles long. We do think that this is a perfect bridge to the future of what could be true virtual reality. I mean, we've got glasses and we can see things in 3D, but this is the beginning to that evolution. We'd love to do the ability, and by the way, and I'm going to do this for fun, but in Walkabout, everybody's video can move around. Everybody's video can, in fact, if I go to this upper left corner and I click on it, I can have up to 50 people in this room, but I want to focus on David Fisher and I just make you super big. Up to 10 people can coexist with screen share. So we want to do a lot of things with group and conference. We just had a trial with a big conference. We probably were a little bit over our skis. We learned a lot about scalability globally, but people are not, the new norm is going to be hybrid. The new norm is going to be, we work from anywhere. We work from Starbucks, we work from Admirals Clubs, we work from hotel rooms and team rooms, and we work from Walkabout. If we could do a replica, imagine a replica of our exact environment. And just for fun, I'll show you one that I love a lot, which is one of our favorites in Tokyo, Japan, which is NEC. And we've built an exact replica of the NEC's 22nd floor headquarters, where we can interoperably work exactly like NEC works. So we think the future is things like CBRE or like HKS. Imagine giving a client commercial real estate with an exact replica of virtual real estate. And then they can go into the same rooms and have the same experience that you might have. How cool is that?
You can have assigned seating in the boardroom or lunchroom.
Exactly. I love that you get it.
So when you're not working on being a possibilitarian, what else occupies your time? What brings you joy?
Well, like everybody, and probably through the pandemic, and by the way, if you're in Dallas, Texas, through the last Arctic storm, family and friends are what matters the most. So I'm blessed to have 6 grandchildren and 2 extended family, like little grandchildren on the way in the extended family. So, and babies are everything. So that's kind of fun. And then I love skiing and hiking and being outdoors and growing up in Montana, Colorado, the mountains. So love that. But at the end of the day, when you're an entrepreneur, you kind of wake up in the morning thinking about what you're going to do that day, and you end up going to bed at night thinking about what you've got to accomplish the next day in the business. So I must say, I need to get a little bit more balance in life and have it be a little bit more about that and a little bit less about Walkabout. But for now, that's what you do when you're a startup.
Well, speaking of collaborating and communicating with our folks, I just got a message from David and Susan that say, we are waiting for Toni to return to the podcast room so that we can return.
Oh, just tell them that although they can't see on the heads up display because I've been doing share within share, say she's here.
Okay, so I can say she's here. Got it. So I guess to sort of finish out, what words of wisdom would you have for any budding entrepreneurs who are out there and have been inspired, as I have been, by your enthusiasm and the excitement for this project?
Well, like so many, don't give up. Don't give up on your vision. It's hard raising money. It's hard growing companies. It's, things are always opportunistic. I think, COVID and the Arctic storm kind of have taught us a few things about what we need to be grateful for. And there comes David in, so I'm going to move his video down. So I told you I can move everybody around. I'll pull everybody up and to the left, and David, there you are. And so that's, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. And then the other thing is, values matter. So stay true to your why. Simon said it well. Start with your why and make sure that you know what that's about, because that will, I think, give you the wind beneath your wings to help you fly.
Well, with that, thank you so much, Toni Portmann, from the CEO of Walkabout. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We will. We do have an AIRTime and an AIR4arts tradition here that we always end with our top 10 short questions. And it is a laser beam into your quick answer psyche that are entertaining and help us finish out the interview with a laugh. So here are your questions. Just give me the first thing that comes to your mind. Number 1, Julia Child or Martha Stewart?
Martha Stewart.
Number 2, Elvis or the Beatles?
The Beatles.
Number 3, what is currently on your nightstand?
Oh dear. A bottle of water and my iWatch charger.
Number 4, San Francisco or New York City?
San Francisco.
Number 5, the last TV show you binge watched?
Oh gosh, I don't really binge watch TV, but the guy with the handsome guy, Bridgerton. Oh my gosh. Be still my beating heart.
I think I know the answer to number 6, but I'll ask it nonetheless. Sunny beach or snowy mountainside?
Snowy mountainside.
Number 7, the one company you wish you'd gotten in on the ground floor of?
Probably Zoom, because I'd then bring Walkabout to Zoom and Eric would be envious.
Number 8, Mac or PC?
PC.
Number 9, and you mentioned several already, but the one leadership or management book everyone should read?
Oh, I can never say one, but management or leadership, for sure, The Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge, for sure. Systems thinking makes my brain explode. But I also think Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning is particularly important, because that's about the why. And then I mentioned Simon's Start With Why, so I love that too.
Oh, that's great. And number 10, your favorite comfort food?
Favorite comfort food? La Madeleine's tomato basil soup.
Well, with that, now that we're hungry, thank you. Please thank Toni Portmann, and I will turn it back over to David and Susan to tell you about the next episode.
Great. Susan?
Thank you, David. No, it's delightful and insightful conversation. I love the dialogue. And we want to thank you on behalf of AIR4arts joining us for today's podcast. And all of you out there, we hope you all join and us on a regular basis for AIRTime interviews, quality and top-notch interviews, and what worked out, just as you've seen this evening. And please come please check our website, AIR4arts website, for information on our upcoming. Thank you again, David and Tom, and David as well. Great job.
Thank you, guys. We have a great lineup planned for the remainder of this year. And these interviews are always surprising and fun and informative.
Yes.
And I just want to thank all of you very, very much. And thank you, the audience, for joining us.